Views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Are you ready?
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Now broadcasting live from the After Hours AM studio, Joel Sturgis and Eric Olson.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this edition of After Hours AM, a.k.a. Wednesday True Crime Criminal Code with that bombshell of a redhead, Dr. Clarissa Cole. Clarissa, how the heck are you? But you know what? Before you answer that, I have a special surprise for you. I do. And I really mean it this time. It's not a flashlight in my pocket or anything. I really mean it. We have a great co-host tonight. Now, before I introduce him completely, he is the driving force behind something that they call Minnesota Ghost Box. And if you have not seen this web series, you're sadly missing out, my friend. Imagine if you're able to watch something like, let's just throw it out there, Ghost Adventures only done better. That would be Minnesota Ghost Box. And so I want to bring Greg. Greg, look at that. I'm tongue-tied too, man. Why don't you come on the show, tell everybody about yourself and where they can find Minnesota Ghost Box after the show. All that kind of good stuff, man.
That's great. Hey, ta-da, here I am. Thank you very much.
Yeah, look at that. Magic or radio.
Yeah, right.
We
How are y'all doing?
Oh, you know what? We're trying to live the dream, but it is cold as hell in Minnesota, all right? Up here anyway, near the Great Lakes, it is completely cold. Yeah. I know down where you are in the great Minneapolis, St. Paul area, you're enjoying 70-degree weather and probably wearing your muscle shirt, walking around, but not up here. We're still wearing parkas and chattering our teeth.
Everyone's appreciating me wearing my muscle shirt. I can guarantee that. Yeah,
they probably love the ripples. They're like, yeah,
they just like, whoa, that's a lot of ripples.
Look at that guy.
That's a lot of ripples.
He's got it going on.
Is that how that should look to you? Is that how people should look? No, it's not actually.
Well, and of course, you just met Dr. Cole, and Dr. Cole, of course, give you a little bit of background on her. You know, she was one of the first females to work in San Quentin's infamous death row, man. I mean, she stared down the bad of the bad. And really, quite honestly, you never know talking to her, but she is one tough character. I would not want to be across her in the table. I would not want her to interrogate me. I would totally give it up. Be like, you know what, Clarissa? You win. Here's the deal. Clarissa, how you doing?
Good. I'm doing good. I'm sad to hear it's so cold there still. Isn't it spring yet?
Not everyone lives in California, okay? All right? Not like you, all right? Okay, no, it is not quite spring here. No, you're from Madison, Wisconsin. You know the drill. Spring doesn't really come.
I mean, sometimes we were still getting like the thaw was happening.
Well,
by now
that is you, and that is wonderful. But here I'm still freezing. I do sound bitter because I am because the weatherman predicted 60-degree weather for us. we ended up getting 40-degree weather with no sun. So we're mad. We're burning effigies right now outside the studio of that particular weatherman. And he
of what? The sun or what?
Well, what it is the weather map. And we burn it. We start with Minnesota.
I concur then.
And go, no, that's what we need the heat. But of course, like always, Eric is on the road, guys, because I know a lot of you are going, where's Eric Olsen? He is on the road. He is taking a much-needed vacation with his family, and they are touring the West Coast. So God bless them, and may they travel well, and next week he will be back. So until then, and then tomorrow night, of course, we have Greg again. And we will be talking paranormal, and that's really in our wheelhouse a lot of ways, right, Greg? That's. I love true crime, I do.
Yeah,
but it's in our wheelhouse, this paranormal thing, and it's really going to be interesting because we're going to be talking to John Cushman, and he is one of the members of this cool thing they're doing called Dinner with a Ghost. You're not going to want to miss that discussion where they're using food to be like almost a trigger object to create paranormal activity, which I've never heard that before until these guys were doing it, and they get really good results from it. So that'll be tomorrow night, but we got some headlines to get to, and of course, it wouldn't be a true crime Wednesday if we didn't at least talk a little bit about Clarissa's favorite guy, Florida Man. Yes, Florida Man.
Florida Man. Are we talking about Florida Man, or are we talking about the Florida woman?
Well, we got both, don't we? We actually have both going on.
Do we? Do we have Florida Man too?
We do. We do.
Tell me.
Florida Man. Well, this today actually just happened yesterday. Florida man arrested for eating pancakes in the middle of the walkway of a street, a road.
That's illegal to eat pancakes?
Well, no, not in a walkway. You can't be in the middle of the road eating a pancake. Okay.
So, Lakeland. You mean like in the crosswalk?
Yes, Lakeland, Florida man charged after eating pancake in a roadway crosswalk to disrupt traffic. The individual was actually sitting down with a table, maple syrup, the whole bit, and he's eating away. And when when the police came and they thought it was a prank, they stopped. The police came, they caught him. They said, "Hey, why eating pancakes in the roadway?" And the guy looks at him in all seriousness, and he says, "I was hungry." So Kieran Thomas was the guy, and he was captured on video in all his glory eating his pancakes. And he was placed under arrest for obstructing justice or obstructing roadway and being belligerent with law enforcement. So, it's okay to have your pancakes, but maybe not in the middle of a roadway. Just saying.
Can't eat them too. That's so sad.
No, that really is. That really is sad.
The question is, does it enhance the flavor of the pancakes if you have it in the middle of a roadway, though? Maybe it does.
It just might. It might actually make everyone feel a little bit better. Maybe he likes a little risk with his food. Like maybe choking isn't quite enough for this guy. I need to go out there and eat, right? And while cars are winging by me, I really need that in my life.
Nothing beats eating pancakes when a semi is heading your direction, is what I always say. So I believe it.
Exactly.
Yes, screw the comfort food.
One more Florida man headline. Florida man meets up of arch nemesis, New York man, to battle to the death. Yeah, you heard it. Okay, there is a New York man out there that makes a lot of headlines. Well, Florida man was not going to take this laying down. He found New York man at a liquor store. New York man and Florida man got into said rumble. They fought until police showed up. And the guy actually, get this, Clarissa, identified himself as Florida man. Would not give his actual identity.
He doesn't have to. He's Florida man. Well, I would bet. I would always bet on Florida man in that fight. Who would you take? Would you take Florida?
I don't know. It says here that New York man was from the Bronx. I don't know, man. The Bronx is a tough neighborhood. If you can make it in the Bronx, you could probably make it. Yeah, but
Florida man's nuts.
Well, he is nuts.
Yeah, that's it.
He is nuts, but that's been a long-running joke on the show, Greg, is Florida man. Where would we be in true crime without Florida man? That's been the question for the ages. Is where would we be? I don't think we'd be anywhere without Florida man. And of course, it just doesn't end there. I know, Clarissa, you have a ton of headlines to whip on us, A lot of them this week. Very, very deep ones as well. So I'm going to step aside and kind of let you start these headlines.
I'm excited because I feel like the female gender has not been represented because we have Florida man, but we've not had a lot of Florida woman. Okay.
Do you really need a Florida woman?
Well, we don't need one, but don't you want one?
Well,
the world is calling for one, probably.
They are. We want our Florida woman, but she has to be like in a trucker hat and drinking beer and chewing a little tobacco.
This is almost better than that. This is a story about a woman named Shatarka Newby. Shatarka, yes. But her patients called her Duchess.
What?
And yeah, let me just tell you that as a person with a doctorate myself, I didn't realize that instead of Dr. Cole, I could ask people to call me Duchess. No one told me that.
Really? So if you're a doctor, you can actually ask people to call you Duchess.
I think
Duchess
I would have chosen that.
You think you would have?
If I had known.
Yeah, but
you didn't hear me say that when we got on early on, and I called you "Hello, Duchess." You didn't remember that
in his Irish accent.
Hello, Duchess.
Hello, top of the evening to you, man.
Just couldn't understand what I was saying. That's all.
So this woman who was saying that she was a doctor, but her patients called her Duchess, she was employed to do cosmetic enhancements.
The butt chick, is it?
Of women's gluteus maximuses.
So their behinds, their butts, their booties, their money makers, whatever you want to call it. She is enhancing these.
Right. She is in fact, she's making them bigger by injecting things. Now, they thought they were getting injected with, say, silicone, because that's normally what a cosmetic surgeon would inject you with. And by the way, not in your butt. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. That's why they have the weird implants that they put in there that are self-contained. Just FYI. If somebody just wants to inject you in some part of your body, just say no.
All right, then. Well, that's a public service now. Hell, we don't even have to play a PSA at all this show. We just did one.
There's a reason. So she's just injecting them, and she's injecting them with a mixture of mineral oil, cement, and Fix-A-Flat.
Fix-A-Flat.
Which the name says it all, so... yeah, she did. She injected all of these caustic substances into their behinds, and this part is actually very tragic. A woman actually died.
Oh, well, did she get any time for manslaughter?
She did get indicted. She did take a plea bargain because I'm guessing she didn't want to do herself more.
Have you seen the size of the Duchess's butt on her picture here?
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. She looks like she did her own Fix-A-Flat thing before.
She did. So, she's injected cement into herself. Yeah.
So wait, are you seriously telling me that one should not fill their buttocks with cement?
When you go to the doctor to get weighed, it's confusing.
So what I had done today probably isn't a good idea.
No, Greg.
If this email would have came to me a little bit earlier, maybe some things could have changed.
You could have changed your mind and maybe gone with, instead of Fix-A-Flat, gone with something different maybe.
But it looks so good. That's the problem.
well, and you're good for 10,000 miles. I mean, you'll never get a flat.
I mean, there's so many jokes about it. It is so bad. And I mean, even if she had just used silicone, like I said, you can't just inject it anywhere in your body because it goes places. Like when you inject something into the flesh of your body, it travels. It goes. Floats around.
I'm surprised she didn't try silicone caulk. It's cheap.
Oh, she did use caulk. Yeah, she used caulk too.
Wow, she was all into it.
Yeah, she did. I can't remember all the elements that she used, but I mean, anything that's floating around your system. I mean, even a bubble of air in your bloodstream, bad.
So I wonder when she goes to jail what that's gonna be like, Greg. What do you think? What do you think?
I think it's gonna be amazing. Actually, I think it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be my butts by Goodyear. It's gonna be pretty.
She'll be the butt of everybody's jokes.
She's gonna get everyone's attention over there. I guarantee it.
So this is the actual thing. Accused of pumping a near lethal formula of cement, mineral oil, bathroom caulking, and Fix-A-Flat tire sealant.
So she mixed this all together in this concoction, saying to herself, "This will work great. Nobody will ever get hurt by this caustic cauldron of goodness.
Yeah, I'll just inject it. It'll be fine.
It'll be awesome. That'll be a good time. They'll have nice, big, firm butts."
Well, it's gonna be like, is this safe? She's like, I did it to myself. Look at me. I look great.
And
So,
these are the results you can expect. Ugh.
It's actually
It's kind of
it's
confounding. Yeah.
it's like a bookshelf, actually, isn't it?
It
And looking
really
at it,
is.
it's like you could put a picture of like your family on there or something too. I mean, it just kind of sticks out.
Doubles
It's
as a
very-
beer holder. You know, if she's in front of you at a concert, just set your beer there. You can really, it's multi-use shelving is what it is. That's really
I don't
what
know
it
how
is.
she's actually still alive. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
It really is amazing. They should have asked her. But by the way, how are you even still alive?
You're so alive.
You know, you should have been dead like 20 times over from the fix a flat on its own, let alone the bathroom caulking. How is this even possible? Now, of course, she is from Florida, so Florida woman represent. I wasn't too far off. She does kind of look like she enjoys a good beer and maybe some chewing tobacco once in a while.
I agree with you. She's looking a little rough,
Looking a
and
little
you know, like how like a normal blood clot would kill other people. She's got Fix-A-Flat in her trunk, and she's fine.
Well, maybe she has such alcohol content in her blood that dissolves whatever caustic fluids
Just
in it.
courses right through.
Right through it, like nothing. Like the liver is like, you know what? This ain't nothing compared to Saturday night, man.
Oh gosh.
It's like a vacation.
I mean, and how are they going to get prison scrubs that fit her? There's all these questions. I have all these questions.
Well, you know what?
Well,
Greg, man, I was thinking maybe we should find what jail she's in and maybe ask the jailers what it's like to have the world's biggest butt.
Well, and I was just gonna say on an unrelated note, I'm gonna after the show go out and get some Fix-A-Flat for no apparent reason.
You know what,
So,
Greg? I bet you if you looked long and hard, you could find a doctor that inject you Fix-A-Flat. You know, you get one of those 1-800 doctors. You know,
I think people at work would like to inject me with some Fix-A-Flat. I think that's we'll do that.
so you know what? Just make sure it's the organic stuff, not that caulking stuff, but. Something that's good for you, maybe that kind of stuff. All right, we beat this one. We beat this one's ass long enough. What's next?
What?
All right. Well, we have got one from. I like this one too. This involves our government though.
Oh,
this is the Navy.
Not
Okay.
the government.
And before everybody jumps to blame Trump, this actually occurred long before Trump got into office. So this is an investigation that's been going on for like 4 years at least. But finally, 8 Navy officials, including an admiral, were finally indicted for taking bribes. I'm sorry, I'm laughing already. From taking bribes from somebody called Fat Leonard.
Leonard.
You can't make this stuff up. I'm like, what? Fat Leonard is a Singapore-based defense contractor. Okay.
All right.
And now, if in case, you guys might be familiar with government contracts, like and how they happen, like the bidding.
Yeah.
And all that.
Well, how does a guy named Fat Leonard show up at these contract biddings? And just show up and go, yeah, we got you. Don't worry. Oh, my name ain't Fat Leonard. We got this.
I'm guessing he shows up with a lot of money and prostitutes because that seems to be what he dealt in.
He had him on prostitutes. Let's just be honest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's the truth. So Fat Leonard was bribing these Navy officials with money, prostitutes, luxury hotels stays, and in exchange, the officials provided Fat Leonard with those, contracts, essentially, the inside information that enabled his firm, which he ran called Glenn Defense Marine Asia, to gouge the Navy at tens of millions of dollars. So Fat Leonard is getting tens of millions of dollars, and all these Navy officials are getting are a little bit of money and prostitutes. Really?
Well, prostitutes, I hear around the block, are not as cheap as they once were. So, it could have cost a lot more for poor Leonard.
True, but here's a defense contract for a couple. Man, that luxury hotel stays,
I'm looking. The reason why I say that is I can kind of look at the story now. I'm at another website, the NBC website, and they are saying that they were high-end prostitutes. That he was furnishing them.
Quality. It means
quality.
It's what
quality.
It means. Yeah.
In luxurious hotels. All right, now I'm telling you, if there's quality involved and luxurious hotels, Really? Is there any red-blooded American male that would say, well, I don't want good whoopee in a really, really nice place? Hell no. I'm
not saying that the guy would say no. I'm just saying that, you want classified information for defense contracts? Maybe that would be a no, you know?
Maybe. I like the way he came across, though. He really, in some ways, he reminds me of the old school mob type of mentality. Yeah, I'll give you some money and the prostitutes, and you give me what I need, and we'll just go on our merry way. You know what I'm saying?
But do those people, those old school people you're talking about, Joel, do they then roll on these people and give up the entire testimony?
Oh.
Because that's what Fat Leonard did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's in trouble now.
I know, right?
He's in trouble.
He's old school to a point, but then
he squeals a lot.
Yeah.
So he should be called Squealing Fat Leonard.
Yeah.
Yes. That's exactly right. That's why they know all the details, because Fat Leonard was apparently taking lots of notes or something. I don't know.
Oh, well, he didn't get a name like Fat Leonard by not being smart. I mean, Singapore is a very poor country. And if there's a fat one running around, he was a smart one.
Yeah.
Fat Leonard. Like the fact that it's on NBC and all these like big, very, very reputable, news websites saying like Fat Leonard.
Could you imagine Lester Holt on NBC Nightly News going, and now this from Naval Intelligence, Fat Leonard has bribed.
Like this very, you got to listen to some of these. Have you listened to some of the news outlets? It's hilarious.
It's ridiculous, is what it is. Really, the Fat Leonard thing is hilarious in a lot of ways, but other ways, on a serious note, it's scary. If that's how easily they'll give things up, is for some whoopee and a few bucks in cash. Really, our secrets aren't so secret now, are they?
No,
not at all.
And also when you think about government, like the pensions and the health care plans that their families are on and all that, like you're throwing all that away for this?
Well, I'm assuming that once the little lady, their wives, found out about the prostitutes and luxurious hotels, they haven't been throwing away a lot of that anyway. That's
a very good point, sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because, divorces, I hear, ain't cheap. And, and if you're making a lot of money and next thing you know you got kids and the wife, you're broke. You're living on ramen noodles. So enjoy the luxurious. Enjoy the hotel.
And to be honest, I'm sure NBC just added the word luxury and it's over before the hotel. It's probably not luxury.
Probably a Motel 6 that's drawing flies.
Just making it sound better, and it's no luxury. There's no luxury here.
No, there's no luxury. It was a Motel 6 off Route 4. It was drawing flies.
It's more of a Motel 2. It's not even.
It's the pay by the hour version of Motel 6. All right, totally. It's Motel 2 because you only pay $2 an hour. Little $2 an hour, and maybe you'll get a shower. But that's about it over here. Okay, what's next, Clarissa?
Oh, just on the side, I looked something up because I was curious because you were talking about divorces being expensive.
Yeah.
So the national average cost of a wedding these days is $35,329.
Damn. Wow.
What? $35,000. And you know what the average cost of a divorce is? $24,000.
Wow. The divorces are cheaper than the weddings.
Apparently.
But still, wow, and my wedding was very, I'll better be quiet, otherwise, I might end up being divorced. I keep talking about prostitutes, luxurious hotels. But, hey, by the way, Fat Leonard, my number is 218. Call the show, Leonard. Call the show. No, but weddings, my wedding was a JP thing, just as a piece. You know what I mean? We were just quick and easy. Didn't want anything extravagant or anything like that because, quite honestly, when I've gone to weddings, and no slight against anyone that's had a big wedding, they're really for other people, not yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
And honestly, I'm a girl. I think I can say this. Most of us don't want to be there anyway, so don't do it for us either. Thanks.
yeah.
Public service announcement.
There you go. Another PSA. We're good.
That's what that was about. You know what? I'm a very atypical girl in that way. I don't care about the size, shape, color of the ring. I don't care about the dress. I really don't want to go to the wedding because I'm going to be really uncomfortable unless there's an open bar. So.
Plus the added fact, I don't like people in general. Might be part of it too. That I don't want to talk to anybody.
Well,
unless there's an open ball.
I can't talk to anybody about anything anyway.
Jeez.
They're like, oh, how are you? What do you do? Well, you can't talk about that at a wedding.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, no one cares. No one cares what you do, really. I mean, honestly, you talk to them and you can tell they don't care. So it's like, okay, well, I'm sorry I wasted 5 seconds talking to you, quite honestly. So
yeah, you just made me a little dumber. I'm sorry.
Where's my whiskey ginger ale?
Yeah, at least the drink was good. Conversation, not so much, but it's all good. $35,000. Are you married, Greg? Are you a married man?
Good question. Yes and no. It's a kind of a long story. Florida's involved.
Oh no, not Florida.
So, thanks for bringing it up. By the way, next time we should talk before these shows. But no, it's good. It's fine. But the short answer is yes and no.
Okay. Well, maybe I should have talked, like you said before the show, before I sprung that guy a personal question on you. Hey, by the way, I'm married.
I just haven't seen her in about 5 years, but
gotcha.
It's great marriage, actually.
Well, it works great. Hey,
it's working out pretty well.
Some days I wish I had that kind of marriage. No, actually, to full disclosure, I'm divorced. I'm married now, but I got married fairly young, and the individual I married was not exactly the individual I thought she was going to be. Let's just say she liked to get around. And so, of course, when you're a young guy and you go through a divorce, you learn something really quick about what you don't want in life. It forces you to grow up awfully fast. But yeah, my divorce took all of 3 weeks. And the reason why it took 3 weeks because the judge was on vacation for 2 of them.
Wow.
So really, we were young. We had nothing, nothing to fight over. But it was more a learning experience than anything else. And so, so I don't advocate divorce. It's hard. It's hard on families. It's hard on everybody. And, but still at the same time, you can't put a price on freedom, people. So, you really can't.
But you may not be afraid to pay for it.
No,
if
you can rent that
badly.
You can rent that by the hour.
Cheaper than your wedding.
Yes. You too can have freedom for a price, and I'm sure Fat Leonard could definitely give you a hand in that department as well.
Anyone else think of Fat Tony from The Simpsons?
I do. I want to call him Fat Tony every time.
Right.
I want to say that.
How can I help you?
What can I be of service with? Yeah. Let me know what I can do for you.
You want a luxury hotel?
We can make that happen. Just give us a little bit of money, a little bit of time. Oh, man.
You have to. Can you imagine being one of these guys, right, who because if you're in government service at all, pretty much that you're going to be indicted. You know what's coming, right?
Well, maybe they're figuring.
Can you imagine telling your family that?
Well, I think they probably tried to gloss over the luxury hotel and the prostitutes the best they could.
Yeah, but Fat Leonard, did they call him Fat Leonard? Like what?
Yeah.
Honey, we need to talk.
Fat Leonard's fault.
Calling to the stand, Fat Leonard.
I prefer to go by Chubby Leonard. Chubby Lenny, thank you. I'm losing weight now. I went from fat to chubby. But what do you want to know there,
Judge? He's going to be the star witness.
What do you want to know there? Yes. I booked all those prostitutes. I'm so sorry for doing that. But I did have a coupon, so it was not so expensive. There was a 2-for-1 deal going down at Scores. So don't worry about that, Judge. If you're mad about what I spent, don't worry about that. I got that covered.
Hey, Fat Leonard has some deep pockets, man. He spent over $18,000 for one dinner for these officials one time. Yeah.
You got to spend money to make money. Yeah.
I guess.
That's just the way it is. But speaking of spending money and making money, we got to try to make some and play some commercials for these people. So maybe we can cover this radio show so we're on tomorrow. We'll be right back right after this.
about the way the summer comes in, it's that smooth.
Hey, you listen to After Hours AM, and if you're listening to us via podcast, make sure you like us, follow us, review us, tell your friends about us, tell grandma about us, and keep listening.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So me and the boys head out to tailgate today and find some other fans in our spot.
Well, it happens.
Cheering for the wrong team.
Oh, this is war.
Even worse, they've got this couch set up and everything.
A couch?
Yeah, it's sectional.
All right, first thing, don't ever use the word sectional again.
Done.
Second, I want you to grab a 4,700-pound tow chain with J-hook and grab hammer. Throw that on the back of your truck.
Got it.
Now you're going to Hail Mary the J-hook over the end of that couch. Time to find a better spot for your new friends.
That should do it.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Anavar Media LCC is a dedicated team of professionals committed to helping business development scale and protect their websites, mobile applications, enterprise software solutions in the Northeast Ohio area. Locally owned since 2012, our client-centered values truly sets Anavar apart. Contact us today to learn how you can get 25% off your first project. Call them at 234-380-4852. Again, that's 234-380-4852, or visit them at www.anavar.com. Again, that's www.anavar.com.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico.
You're listening to After Hours AM. Do you have a question for the guests or even the host? That's really easy. Go ahead and email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Are you feeling like picking up the phone and being part of the show? Call us at 612-326-6874, 612-326-6874. Come be part of the madness.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Dr. There you go. And
Greg Bakken.
And we are having a great time talking all things true crime. We're kind of hitting the headlines. We have a lot of new listeners. Evidently, Greg's kind of a popular guy. I don't know why, but he's kind of a popular guy. So I want to give a big shout out to everyone that's tuning in here to hear Greg. And I got to say, I really enjoy getting to know Greg. He is, of course, the driving force behind Minnesota Ghost Box, along with his whole crew. I don't want to leave them out. But after the show, make sure you guys Google Minnesota Ghost Box. Check out the website. Watch the videos. I really think you're going to like them. And, of course, sooner rather than later, they're going to be part of the America's Most Haunted family, where you could actually go to America's Most Haunted, where you already like to go, and check out the videos. And so that will be coming really, really soon. As soon as Eric gets back, and he's done a lot of kind of good stuff. But getting back to our headlines, I know we have so much more to cover, Clarissa. Now, we were talking about what? Underage sex during the break. So here we are, talking about underage whoopee.
Well, okay, so this is kind of a weird one. I used to live up in Shasta, California.
Is there a normal one? Okay, whenever you start off with underage sex, is there ever a normal one?
There isn't.
Okay, just asking. Is there like a... This is a weird one. What?
I felt like, okay, the only reason I said I felt like it was weird is because Shasta, if people are not familiar with that region, even though it's a big ski and kind of resort like Lake Shasta is very big, Shasta community itself is very, very small. So it's not like a huge community or anything. It's more akin to a northern small town. So
gotcha.
In Shasta, California, there's a 42-year-old woman named Mary, but she went by Debbie for some reason.
Debbie Mary Debbie.
Makes sense.
Debbie Fletcher. She's 42 years old, and she is accused of the statutory rape of not one, not two, but 3 members of the local high school football team.
Wow, that's some. Wow, that is really some. I gotta say, she's very ambitious. I mean, 3 members of a football team. Wow,
Debbie does a high school football team.
Yeah, I was going to say that
makes
that totally makes sense. The Debbie part now.
She's okay. So, did you take a look at her picture? So she's 42. She's blonde. I mean, would you say she's pretty? Good looking?
Oh my God. Let's just say I wish I was playing football right now.
Yeah, she is not a bad-looking woman, right? And
no,
I mean, 3 members. She's a dental hygienist by profession.
All those
and a
dental
mother.
hygienists, man, they are a horny bunch. Let me tell you, they really are.
I thought they were sadistic.
Every time you turn around, if you're like when I was young and single, right? Every crazy chick I'd meet in the bar was either a nurse or a dental hygienist.
I agree with the nurse.
It was like, wow, you're a dental hygienist and what you're doing is not very. It has nothing to do with hygiene. What are you doing?
But wait, this makes sense, Freudian. It totally does. Like they do crazy things, but then they feel the need to clean out people's mouths later. It's totally a Freudian thing.
It's kind of like Orbit's gum, right?
I'm just thinking I'm only about 24 years out of her league and also massively out of shape. But I mean, other than that, I think we're a perfect fit.
Yeah, same here. Other than being in my 40s and kind of fat, I'm right up her alley.
Other than those small pieces, we're good to go.
Yeah.
And she was saying that because I'm thinking to myself, okay, is this dental hygienist like hitting on these kids when they come in? What's the deal? It turns out she was working with somehow like doing freelance work with a photographer on the side that did photos for the high school yearbook.
Wow! So she would get them through the photographer. She would
cheese.
Yeah, maybe she helped them with their smiles.
Gosh. Yeah. I mean, so not only was she not caught, but it was reported she was doing this. Then right after they get this report, she tries to convince one of them not to testify, and not by talking to him, but through text, because putting it in writing is always intelligent.
That is always so smart to put your crimes in writing. That is a wonderful thing. Yes. By the way, mum's the word. LOL. Don't tell anybody. LOL.
Don't tell anyone.
By the way, let's meet up after the football game. Your place or mine. LOL. Oh crap! I just texted you this.
Oh yeah.
I hope she uses the language that the kids use. So like don't tell no one. So it'd be NO and then the number 1. That's why I'm out of her.
Yes. See, I am so far out of that, man. It's not even funny. I was told that LOL is no longer used. What? Are you kidding me? I've been using this for 10 years. Now you got to tell me it's ha, 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 ha. Screw that crap. That and your hashtags. Go away. No.
Don't change this on me. This is all I have left.
This is the last shred of cool I have is the LOL. Don't take that away.
I have a shirt that has sequence LOL on it. I mean, come on. That's all I wear. So
I bedazzled my jeans with LOL. I mean, I'm done. I'm stuck. So don't take it away. Please, I'm begging you.
It's bad when your text app actually recognizes psychological terms. That's how much of a geek I am. It autofills.
Yes. Well, guys, and I'm sure you guys have done this yourselves. I hate predictive text, the autofill text. Nothing makes you look like a bigger idiot than autofill texting, okay? Something as simple as, I had to stop and get some gas, right? You ship it off, and next thing you know, the other person's reading, what? You had to stop and get some ass? Are you kidding me? Why are you telling me this? Stuff like that. It's just a weird little in the wrong moment kind of,
Well, my problem is that it autocorrects to say gas instead of what I wanted it to say. So
gotcha. Yeah. Evidently, I send a lot of bad texts.
More embarrassing, really.
Yeah, well, it would be. That'd be right up there sending a sexy text to your mom. Yeah, that happened to a guy I know. Yep.
Oh, no.
Sent you know what picked his own mother.
Oh, no. Oh, the humiliation.
And she's like, I recognize that.
It's something she hasn't seen before. Maybe, hopefully, it's a little bit bigger and more, whatever.
I was just sending it for this annual inspection, Mom.
Could you forward this to my doctor? I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I got that mole right there, Mom. Is there anything to be concerned about?
See, I'm a man now. You did this to me.
You and Aunt Kathy, but mostly Aunt Kathy.
So this is like, I want to take, this is a different story that I think is equally egregious, but in a different way, right?
Oh,
so
no.
Notice how we're all adults, right? And we took
pretend
everything.
to be at least.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, but yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we just went into the gutter with everything, right? So this proves that all adults go into the gutter with everything. So there's a girl from Wisconsin. She's 12. And when I say 12, like just to, because I've seen a video with this girl and stuff like that, just to kind of put it out there for the audience. I'm not saying that she's a 12-year-old that's more mature. She's like a 12-year-old, an innocent 12-year-old kid, a young, fresh-faced 12-year-old.
Okay.
She was selling, now I don't know if anybody will remember these. The name is unfortunate. They are called water snakes. Do anyone remember these from school?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're like these little jelly things that you squeeze and they slip out of your hands, right?
Yep.
Stay with me now. Those. Come on, we're adults.
I am. I'm being an adult. Don't worry.
So
that's the problem. I'm an adult. Yeah, go ahead though.
Yeah, right. No, so she's selling these to other kids at the school, and they're playing with them. And a teacher sees it, and the teacher becomes enraged because she said that the girl was selling sex toys to her friends out of her locker.
So she's taking these iconic toys, evidently in Wisconsin, and selling them, Wisconsin Dells and all, selling them to her classmates, and the teacher gets jealous or gets angry that she's not selling her one of these said sex toys, or
no. She was saying that this girl brought sex toys to school to sell, so they suspended her for selling sex toys.
Well, it's anyone, including people from Wisconsin, could tell that these are not sex toys.
You would think
just by
so.
looking at them. I mean, I don't mean to put down Wisconsin, but they're kind of gaining steam right with Florida.
Oh,
yeah.
We've always held our own. Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So the question is, these water snakes have been around since like the 1940s. Are these new to Wisconsin that no one's ever seen any of these before?
They're that far back in the...
No, they actually really do go quite a ways back. I mean, if you look them up on Amazon, which I know seems like a scary thing to do, they are all toys. I mean...
Well, they're toys, yes. They are toys, but evidently that teacher thought they were toys. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, they're child toys. And she thought that these were sex toys. So then she goes to talk to the girl's mom, and the mom's like, what are you talking about? She's selling these toys. She gets suspended, but the dad now is on like a rampage saying that he wants the school to apologize because they wrongfully accused her.
They should apologize.
I agree.
You know, did the mother reach in her purse and say, this is a sex toy? Kind of like Crocodile Dundee.
Would have been fantastic.
This is a knife. No, this isn't.
That would have been the best answer ever. But no, that's not what happened.
You know, it's you see where I'm going with that. So I better not elaborate.
So the dad says, very calmly, he just says, I would like an apology and for the suspension to be taken off of my 12-year-old daughter's record, because of course that's not what she was doing.
How does a 12-year-old even have a record? I mean, is there really a record when you're 12? You know,
good point.
That's held against you. I mean, if there is, I'm really screwed, to be honest with you.
You're screwed.
Yeah, I was way screwed then, because I was more into, back in the day, the He-Man action figures and that kind of stuff. You had a Castle Grayskull. Don't even try to play, Greg. You did.
I had also Snake Mountain, but that's different from Water Snake Mountain, just so we know.
Oh my gosh.
So
the school refuses. The school is like, no, she's still suspended for sex toys, even though it was the teachers and the administration that had the dirty minds, not the kids.
Well, yeah, they're just playing with a iconic childhood toy, water snakes. You know,
you can throw out You could throw out the word iconic, by the way, when you say that. Just to be fair.
You probably should. They were never iconic, okay? They really never were. They always were looked at as sex toys, I'm sure, at some places. But, in this case, it's a 12-year-old girl, so I'm going to give the girl the benefit of the doubt. Although 12-year-old girls in Wisconsin age quick, that's what I've been hearing, at least according to some of the news reports we've had between the Slender Man murder or stabbing and everything else. The girls at 12 are not the same girls at 12 we grew up with. Let me just tell you.
Well, they might be murderers, but they weren't mature. I don't think we should argue that. They were still clearly kids, which is why they believed in the Slender Man. So maybe the exact opposite is happening in Wisconsin.
Well, and did you see the sidebar to the story that the water snakes were provided to this one by Fat Leonard? I don't know if you noticed that.
Fat Leonard weighs in. That ain't no toy. That is a water snake. Because Fat Leonard would have bought that toy.
So you want the water snake? Is that what I hear?
It all makes sense now.
Are you sure you don't want the Stretch Armstrong?
It was national security.
He has corn syrup in him after all. It's my tasty on a hot day.
Okay, so the last story is actually quite a serious one that I do want to get out there because I think that parents especially, and Joel, you've talked about things on the air, and I just wanted to honor that when parents do the right thing, that they should be lauded for doing that. And in Maryland, there was a teenager, 18 years old, so that's why her name has been released. Her name is Nicole Sabario. She was acting strange for quite a while, like for months. And her dad was starting to get really concerned about her strangeness. He didn't know why she was acting the way she did. So he actually went into her room and read her diary. Okay. And which obviously cardinal sin,
Yeah, you don't want to go in the diary. Yeah. That's right there. Yeah, that's bad news.
But inside this diary was a detailed plan for a school shooting to take place on April 5th.
I heard that on the news recently.
It wasn't just the diary. She bought a shotgun. She got ammunition. She had supplies to make pipe bombs. This was very serious.
Who was helping her?
Far as
that seems
we know, nobody.
Pretty ambitious for an 18-year-old.
Well, and for a girl, this is very rare.
Yeah, that's extremely rare. You would have thought, with all that knowledge of guns and pipe bombs, there would have been somebody prodding her, older, probably male, that had an axe to grind with somebody in that area to kind of use her as the scapegoat to do something like that. That's what I would
think. So, yeah, you would think so. But given that it was in her diary, and it was in her diary that she was talking about how upset she was with people in the school.
Two things I'm shocked at. Number one, the dad could pick the lock in the diary. Those are surprisingly hard. That little heart, open up. Yeah. Number two, it really is sad because she just threw her life away is what she did. 18 years old. Now, hopefully she can be rehabilitated this young. And I pray to God that's a treatable mental illness that she has, that maybe one day she can actually live a life and do things and maybe put this behind her to some extent anyway. But once it hits the mass media like it has, it's never going to be behind her.
No, exactly. I know she is in treatment. They said she's in a local hospital. And the dad must be heartbroken. And I know he is, but you have to do this, not just for their safety, but for hers too, because people don't make it out of school shootings. Her either.
Well, what was her reasoning? Did she ever divulge what her reasoning behind all this was?
Not a whole lot has been released yet. Other than that, it seems like she is definitely suffering from a mental illness and maybe had some problems in the past. So.
So do you think she's going to see, speaking professionally, do you think that she's going to see prison time out of this, or do you think she's going to see more psychological treatment time out of this?
That's a good question. It's a really good question. The cops have already said that they're going to charge her with weapons possession.
Well, that's the cops, though. That's one thing. I do believe from my own experience, as I've said on the show, I have a daughter that has mental challenges, and God bless her, she's 16 now, and she's a much better place than where she was. With a lot of therapy, a lot of family therapy, things like that. So she is actually be coming home soon, thank God, after a year away. And we're looking forward to that. But anyhow, the police, in my own experience, seem to be a little heavy-handed in a lot of... this was egregious, don't get me wrong. She had pipe bombs, she had a shotgun, da-da-da-da. But sometimes I think some understanding goes a long way. Rather than seeing the crime, they should see the person behind the crime screaming for help. Law enforcement, because you don't see that a lot. You know, the crime is addressed, and it should be. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it shouldn't be addressed. It should be dealt with. But then they should recognize the cry for help behind that acting out and be more proactive rather than be interested in rehabilitation rather than incarceration.
I hope that's how that turns out for her. I mean, it seems like since she's in the hospital right now that it might.
Yeah.
And that since no violence actually occurred, I'm hoping that's the way it goes, because to throw someone's life away at that young age when they can be rehabilitated, why do that?
Well, I was going to ask you, Clarissa, when do females generally hit the top of their growing chart? When are they done? When are they full grown, human beings, so to speak, adults?
It's pretty similar between boys and girls, that around age 23, 24 is when our brains are fully congealed in their more adult form. And that's consistent with both boys and girls. And the thing that's really confusing, especially when we're talking about these relationships between minors and adults, is that girls mature emotionally faster than boys do, but it doesn't mean that they're any more prepared for all of the complexities of life. The brain is still not set up the way it needs to be to make adult executive decisions and planning. That doesn't happen until at least age 23.
And the sad part is I'm far from mature. I still laugh at fart jokes, okay? So, I'm guilty as charged. I'm nowhere near mature. But,
men never grow up.
No, we don't. We just don't.
No.
You just ask anyone. They'll tell you. No,
we pretend.
We do pretend. Some of us better than others. But deep down inside, we're still that kid in that Hot Wheels car. Going, I wonder if I could jump this. Well,
that's why stunt people exist, though. We need this.
That is true. Now, that's something you should look into, Clarissa. Your career as a stunt woman. Where'd that ever go?
I don't have as much fear as some people, but I don't know that you could give me any amount of money and put some wires on me and go, jump off this building. It'll be fine. I don't know. I don't think so.
Go ahead. Everyone's doing it. Jump down. Not a problem. Don't worry. You got this.
We're going to set you on fire. You can go to hell. It's kind of how that works.
We're going to set you on fire.
The suit will be fine.
You know what? We're going to go ahead and we're going to, we'll be right there for you. Don't worry. We'll get this taken care of. Don't worry about it at all. Quick programming note. I did hear from Ronnie Bear from Discovery Channel's Killing Fields, and he was on the show, of course. And it was a great show, by the way. And if you haven't heard the show, you need to tune into that one. But you guys, our listeners, have given him some very credible tips. As everyone knows, we are on UPRN 107.7 New Orleans. That's right. We're not going to forget about you guys. And our listeners down there, they heard the call. They stood up. And I do believe a few of the listeners had some leads for him on a couple of those cold cases. So he wanted to share that with me, that some good calls did come out of that. So, again, kudos to you guys that are listening. You guys are the ones that picked up the phone that felt that you had some info. So that was great, and keep it happening, keep it coming. And, of course, we're going to have the full cast on. We're working on that now on the show. We're going to have Rhodey and everybody else come on. And maybe we can talk a little bit deeper on what kind of tips we're given via this radio show.
That would be great. I mean, always come forward with stuff, even if you think it may not have anything to do with it. If you've got that feeling deep in your gut, say something. It's not going to hurt to say something and, just find out.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's, here's a little known fact. How problematic priests are warehoused. Have you ever thought about that? Where are they warehoused? What do they do to these guys?
They get sent to other parishes. They don't really get
there's a spread over here at truecrimereport.com, and they kind of go into it since at least 1947, when the religious community called the Servants of the Pentecostal or whatever opened one of the first treatment centers. Get this, for priests grappling with pedophilia and substance abuse. I did not know that there was that big of a call in the clergy, but I mean, obviously now more and more has been to light on this subject matter. But they actually one of the first and only rehab facilities that caters to the clergy. And their rate of getting them back on their feet, so to speak, is actually not that bad because a lot of them want to do good. I mean, of course, they're clergymen, so I mean, deep down there's that good. But one thing that they do call for in this article is that maybe other religions that do not allow their priests to marry should rethink that and allow them to have families.
Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. I have so many problems with this story. I can no longer stay silent.
Okay, go ahead. Let's talk.
I cannot.
Tell me.
Okay.
I'm up
First
there,
of all,
waiting.
Pedophilia has nothing to do with marriage. People
Okay.
that are attracted to children, period. If you give him a wife, he's just going to abuse more children. It has nothing to do with being married. Most pedophiles, in fact, the majority of pedophiles, are married. Second, when it comes to these treatment centers, I when you brought it up, Joel, I went, oh my God, I remember this. I have actually been sort of courted when I started my sex offender work to work at a place like this.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
So they were trying to get you.
I grew up Lutheran, which is not the same as Catholic, but I had a religious background. I went to Baylor, which is a Baptist school. So in a lot of ways, I was an attractive candidate because I had the religious background and I treated sex offense. However, one of the goals, and they made this very clear, one of the goals is that they want their priests to go back into circulation.
So,
and I said, what if they're not treated? What if they're not ready? It doesn't matter.
So they
still put them back out there.
So they'll take somebody that's been convicted and found to be a pedophile amongst the priesthood, and they will give them treatment X and then say they completed treatment X and then push them right back on the street to continue.
Right, and now they're cured because they've been through that program. Well, I'm sorry to say, but the cure rate for pedophiles is actually quite low. It doesn't mean that they're going to recidivate, but it does mean that they shouldn't be in situations where they're around young kids unsupervised. And so I didn't agree with that aspect of the program. I said, I don't want to send these. I mean, I'm like, well, you're not going to send these guys back into a parish on their own, right? Because we all know they shouldn't be. Yeah. And they're like, oh, no. Once they're through the program, they're treated. And I was like, oh.
So that's what you're calling it these days.
Yeah.
They're treated.
I'm actually surprised to hear that there was even an attempt at a program. I just assumed that they're just shuffled to other parishes, quite honestly.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Pressure, the outcry.
Yeah, that's what I thought too until I came across this article again over here at truecrimereport.com, and of course as a clearinghouse for all true crime, I enjoy it quite a lot because they even have stripper stories, which is hilarious. Because you haven't read a good true crime with stripper on stripper violence, when they're throw down at the old bar tonight. But I came across this one and it made me kind of sick because, okay, first your priest or pastor or anyone that is a person of your faith is supposed to be above the fray. You are supposed to be able to trust them with your inner soul and go there and really seek guidance from God through them. Okay, if they have ulterior motives such as what we had discussed, that is no longer there. Okay, number two, Clarissa is absolutely correct. I'm looking at that, and the cure rate for a pedophile is non-existent virtually. Right. It can be managed. It can do this. It can do that, but it cannot be cured. Yeah. And another thing also is to put them back in circulation. They're dealing with young children. How do they get around the law? Where the law says you cannot be around children because you are a freak. How do they keep letting these people be around children and not be taken to legal task for it?
Well, and the fact that they're saying, that the outcry kind of, and a lot of people have said this, is that, well, man, if Catholic priests were just allowed to get married, the fact that they allow that to even be part of the discussion proves to me that they have a fundamental misunderstanding of the disease itself and should not be treating it because they don't know what they're doing.
But far and away, they're in the minority, the priests that do this. I don't want to make it sound like that everyone's priest in their parish is looking at little Johnny going, I like you, little Johnny. You ever watch Planet of the Apes, little Johnny? It's not like that. Do you
Very erotic movie that.
Do you like gladiator movies? I don't think that most of them are not doing that. So I want to stress that a very, very, very minuscule minority of people that feel the calling of God are that way. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't keep your eyes open. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be vigilant. Be vigilant.
And in my opinion, do not go to the church, go to the police.
Exactly.
They should be in prison, and the churches are just going to put them in a program or shuffle them off to another parish. Yeah. Get justice for your child. Do it the right way.
Well, we got to go to Fox News there, little Johnny. When we come back, we got Pete Klismet coming on, and we're going to talk about, wow, he's a great one. One of the very first profilers ever. We're going to pick his brain about serial killers, all that good stuff. Don't go anywhere. Be right back right after this.
Fox News Radio, I'm Kathleen Maloney. The Senate Intelligence Committee is promising a thorough investigation of Russia's meddling in the November election.
An outside foreign adversary effectively sought to hijack our most critical democratic process, the election of a president.
Senator Mark Warner is the leading Democrat on the committee. The Republican chairman, Senator Richard Burr, says at least 20 interviews will be conducted, including with the president's son-in-law.
The committee will conduct an interview with Mr. Kushner when the committee decides that it's time for us to set a date, because we know exactly the scope of what needs to be asked of Mr. Kushner.
Jared Kushner volunteered to be interviewed. Voters sound off about taxes in the latest Fox News poll. Gernal Scott is live with the details.
Kathleen, following a failed attempt at health care reform, the president says tax reform is his next big challenge. Respondents in a new Fox News poll say lowering taxes should be an administration priority. In fact, 55% say taxes are too high, and nearly 3 out of 4 voters say they want to see President Trump's promise of change in the tax code this year become a reality. However, a shade under half the voters who took part in the poll say they feel their taxes will go up on President Trump's watch. Only about a third feel taxes will drop. Kathleen.
Thanks, Gernal.
America stands with Israel.
Vice President Mike Pence swearing in David Friedman as U.S. ambassador to Israel. The president's daughter will serve as an unpaid employee in the White House office. In a statement, Ivanka Trump says she will be subject to all of the same rules as other federal employees. Stocks closed mixed. The Dow dropping 42 points, S&P gaining 2 points, and NASDAQ also up 22 points. You're listening to Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced. President Trump is tackling drug addiction.
At an opioid and drug abuse listening session, the president highlighted a sobering number from the CDC. More than 33,000 people died from opioids in 2015.
And I think it's probably almost untalked about compared to the severity that we're witnessing.
The president is preparing an executive order setting up a commission which would tackle prevention and interdiction, giving particular attention to addiction recovery and improving access to treatment. At the White House, John Decker, Fox News.
2 of New Jersey Governor Chris Christie's former aides are sentenced to jail time in the Bridgegate scandal. Bridget Kelly got 18 months.
I will not allow myself to be the scapegoat in this case, and I look very much forward to the appeal.
Former aide Bill Baroni, sentenced to 2 years in prison, also plans an appeal. Chuck Berry fans get a chance to honor him.
The late Chuck Berry's family announced fans will be able to pay tribute to the rock and roll pioneer in what they called a public viewing from 8 a.m. to noon April 9th at the Pageant Club in St. Louis, which is the late rock and roll visionary's hometown. Family, friends, and music industry folk will gather following for a service. There was no word if the viewing will involve an open casket. Berry died March 18th at the age of 90. Berry is known as one of the founding fathers of rock and roll, behind such classics as Johnny B. Good's Sweet Little 16 and Rollover Beethoven. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
New Samsung phones are coming out next month. The S8 will come in 2 sizes, both bigger than last year's models, but the batteries won't be bigger. Samsung is playing it safe after the embarrassing recall of its fire-prone Note 7. I'm Kathleen Maloney, Fox News Radio.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me, I have Dr. Cole.
Dr. Clarissa
there
Cole.
we go. And, of course, tonight, we have the awesome and talented guest co-host,
Greg Bakken.
There we go. I might overbuild you a little bit, but hey, you know what? I want you to really like me, Greg.
Honestly, I don't think you did. I think you're right spot on.
Well, you know, humility may not be your strong suit, but gosh darn it.
My mom always said modesty is the best policy, so, you know.
And Clarissa, why don't you give us a rundown of who we're talking tonight? I mean, I am just excited to talk to our guest. I'm really excited.
Well, okay. So, Pete, I want to make sure that I get your last name pronounced exactly correct. Can you pronounce it for me?
Klismet. Just
Klismet.
like his play with an L. Yeah, Klismet.
There it is.
Very cool. So, all right. So, Pete Klismet, I am very excited to have him on the show. He served 4 years on submarines and with 2 tours of Vietnam. He started college and received his bachelor's degree at a state university in Colorado. And upon graduation, he went to work with the Ventura, California Police Department. And he got 2 master's degrees and left as a sergeant after 9 years. And he entered duty with the FBI in 1979 and served at several duty stations around the Midwest. And Pete was chosen to become one of the first profilers in the FBI. That is so exciting, I can't even tell you. He's trained hundreds of officers and students in the concepts of criminal profiling, and before his retirement, he was named the 1999 Law Enforcement Officer of the Year by a multinational organization, and he also received numerous awards and service decorations through the FBI. We will talk about his books a bit later, but that is your basic introduction to Pete Klismet.
Hey, Pete, man. Welcome to After Hours AM.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and thank you for your service, by the way. Submarine work is not for the faint of heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the question would be, what is a submarine doing in Vietnam? But
you know, good question. I was just about to ask you that. Actually, I wanted to ask you that. Now, after, I was going to say, because it says you're a Vietnam vet, and again, thank you for your service, but what the heck was a submarine doing in Vietnam?
Well, excuse me. Right off the coast of Vietnam is the South China Sea and the Gulf of Tonkin, which we used to call the Tonkin Gulf Yacht Club, was that we were sailing through. But we were there to do reconnaissance of the shore. We were also there to do some pilot recovery. When planes went down, we didn't do a lot of that, but we did some. And also to put some gentlemen that we called frogmen at the time, we now call them SEALs, and they would board the ship, and then we would submerge and take them and get them as close as we could to the shore. So we had a number of nasty little things that we would do.
Well, wow, that is something else. I mean, we could talk all night just about that. But again, thank you for your service. And when the FBI called you and wanted you to be a profiler, no pressure, right, Pete? There was no pressure involved in that.
I really don't feel a whole lot of pressure anymore, to tell you the truth. So yeah, you're right.
When they called you up and we want you to be in the group of the first profilers. We're not quite sure what one is yet, but we want you to be one of them. That call must have taken you kind of aback a little bit. I mean, because it was new ground. No one had really done this yet.
Well, it was kind of an unheard quantity, quality, whatever, at that time. But I got a telephone call from my boss in Omaha. I was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa at the time. And believe it or not, they have an FBI office in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, plus a lot of other smaller places. But sitting in my office one afternoon, minding my own business, and the telephone rang, and it was my boss. And he said essentially, Pete, they have a new program in the Bureau, and I want you to go into it. And I said, what's that? And he said, it's called psychological profiling. And I replied back, what the is that?
Yeah.
Because I'd never heard of it. I mean, I'd been an agent for, 3 or 4 years, minding my own business, doing as good as I could, working as hard as I could. And all of a sudden this crops up, and I'm all about, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So he told me, and they said, it's a very new concept they're trying to develop, and which we will talk about here in a bit. But in any event, I said, well, I got to think about this one. So I had a meeting with myself, and the next day I got back to my boss, and I said, okay, I'll give it a try. And so the rest is history.
So how did they begin? I mean, after you said, okay, I'll give it let's give this a try. What was the training like, or what was the early day protocols like? It couldn't have been anywhere near like it is today.
Well, we were kind of swinging for the fences and kind of shooting from the hip, I guess, which may not be the perfect analogies, but it was a very ambitious plan. And the reason it was a plan was the United States had begun to experience an extraordinary number of homicides. Mm-hmm. And not only was there an extraordinary number, but back in the 60s and 70s when I started in law enforcement, apparently we were pretty good because we were solving in the neighborhood of 90 or 2% of all homicides in the United States. As we went on into the 80s and into the 90s, then, and currently, the homicide rate in this country has gone up a bit. Well, depending on what you're comparing it with, it's gone up a little bit. But the worst part of the whole bargain is that we were starting to solve far less, and now we're down to about 67% of all homicides solved, which means back in the point of the 60s and earlier 70s, we were solving 9 out of 10. Then we went down to the point where we were below 7 and probably closer to 6%. That's not a whole lot of good news right there. Something needed to happen.
How did they?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going
to ask how they came up with the idea, though, that you do a profile of who to catch.
That was my question.
Quite a big departure. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, Clarissa, and that's a good question. What they started to look at is one of these things that, well, here's what we've been doing, and yet our solution rate is going down, and as I think Dr. Phil says, how's that working out for you? And the way we had been doing it for many years is what I now call the solution matrix was, trying to determine the who, what, where, when, how, and why. Mm-hmm. Now, if you notice that statement, at the very bottom of the list is the why. Everything else is very traditional in terms of trying to investigate a homicide and all those things, but yet de-emphasized, and at the bottom of the list is why. Okay, so what then they started doing, and the basic tenets of criminal profiling were to take that solution matrix that I talked about with all of those things encompassed, and then just turn it upside down. And you have to understand everything that's going on. You have to have your arms around what's going on in an investigation, but change the focus a little bit. Again, how is that working for you? Not very well. So if we then start to take a look at the why of things, then if we find out and figure out why, are we getting closer to a suspect? And the answer to that is obvious.
Okay, now my idea, and I'm sure Greg will agree because we're both into TV. I mean, we love our TV.
Yeah.
When you watch a CSI, right, they sit around this big table with a computer they can touch, and they work up who this, he should be white with a balding hair, and he owns a dog. They get a profile up right away. Is that really how it works? Is there a big round table somewhere with a fancy computer, people mulling it over in 20 minutes, who this person may or may not be?
Yeah, the short answer to that is no. And you mentioned CSI. Were you talking about Criminal Minds as well?
I kind of roll them all into one TV, true crime TV thing. Greg,
right.
It
seems like information is just easily available to everybody when they're trying to figure out. I understand that that's a convention to keep a 1 hour program not mired down, but at the same time, it's like, is there any fact to any of that?
Probably the smallest iota, but let's take CSI since you mentioned it, and I'm sure everybody's familiar with it.
Yeah.
And I hope I don't get lawsuits slung at me by the attorneys. But it's its goal, the show's goal is entertainment, and so they will take the facts or reality and stretch it out as far as it can go and let it snap, and then go even farther. For example, the CSI program that's on TV right now, or any one of the three?
Yeah.
What they have is guys going out and running around, driving, picking up hair and fibers and blood at the scenes of crimes, and driving a Hummer and kicking in doors and shooting everybody possible. And the truth of the matter is, the crime scene investigators, quite often, on most departments, are not even law enforcement officers. And secondly, these guys have, degrees in chemistry or serology or physics or something else, and that's probably about the last person I would want standing next to me with a gun in his hand and driving a Hummer.
Right.
I would agree.
So what they do is they show them going out on a crime scene, and then they solve it, and then they look for the guy, and if they can't shoot him, they arrest him, and heaven knows what else. But when I would use those guys, I would tell them, okay, here's the deal. We've got a homicide. I need you guys to go out to the scene. I need you to collect the evidence. I need you to do your job, and that is to take it back into the laboratory. They knew what to do. I didn't have to tell them. Mm-hmm. And I said, then when you're done and you've got some good information for me, get a hold of me, tell me what you got, do it as quick as you can, and then we'll keep the investigation flowing, and I hope you give me some good clues. So, that's kind of the way it really goes.
So Pete, can I ask, back when you got into this and being into it for a while, what were some of the main attributes that you would look for or that was needed to become a profiler, and has those attributes changed as time has gone on, or has that always been the same?
That's a good question, Joel. I think
that wasn't me. That was Mr. Greg. He had a great humdinger question. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, was that Greg?
Yeah, he's the thinker, man. He's the thinker.
Well, he said, at the start, he was very sharp, so he's right, because that is a very good question. And the reason it is a good question is I can really answer that in 2 words. It's kind of like name that tune, right? But I can answer that in 2 words, and that is common sense. Mm-hmm. Or go down another couple of lines, and I can answer it by saying good investigator. Mm-hmm. In other words, there are some people, there are a lot of people in the world who just don't get it. I mean, they don't quite understand, what the whole world is about. Somehow they float through and make it through life. Similarly, there are some law enforcement officers, not all are created equal, And there are some that maybe don't get it as well as others. And you would say, oh my gosh, in the FBI, well, yeah. I mean, for example, let's say you had a child that was kidnapped. Heaven forbid that happening.
Yeah.
But you had a child that was kidnapped, and you have the choice now of having your case investigated by a person that was an accountant, a CPA, a person that speaks Spanish, a lawyer, or perhaps a person that was a former police officer for 8 or 10 years. Take your pick of which one you want.
Well, I'd definitely go with the police officer. It would be my knee-jerk reaction because I need somebody with experience, someone that knows what they're doing, what they're looking for. I don't call a plumber to cut my hair.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, all of those things, all of those different people with those backgrounds are, in fact, in the FBI. I would rather have an accountant, and I've had accountants working for me on drug cases. I don't want to look at somebody's bank accounts. Forget it. That's not what I do. But give me a crime. I was a cop for 10 years, so, give me something that looks like a crime, and then, get out of the way, because there's somebody out there that's going to have a set of nice white teeth in their butt, and I won't let go. So, it's... Go ahead.
I was going to say, so when they give you a case, and let's just say they find, I guess one that has been covered here, maybe you're familiar with it being from the Midwest, and no one knows if it's real or not, but let's just say for a second it is real. The smiley face killers. We did a show on that. We had retired FBI agent John D'Souza come on that had worked the case, and he had intimate knowledge of the case. And what would your profile be? I mean, you're talking about young, white usually, athletes that are strong as oxes, ending up dead. Who would you, if you had a knee-jerk reaction, you had to start profiling today, what would you look for right away?
Well, based on what you told me, I really don't know, because I never really got very skilled at doing phone profiles, and
Gotcha.
I would have officers call me and kind of do a drive-by on me with information, and I'd simply tell them, I need to look at the whole case.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
The smiley face person, yes, I have heard of that, but I know virtually little or nothing about it. I thought you were actually going to ask me about Jody Huisentruit.
Well, we can go into that too. I was going to hit you with that one next.
I want to know about that. I
was going to warm you up a little bit there, Pete.
No, well, she disappeared, and she was the young news anchor, the young blonde news anchor, right, from Midwest, who disappeared, and nobody they didn't.
Both the same, yeah.
Did they ever find out what happened? I mean, obviously, I think she was murdered. Her car was found. She was late to the station don't ask me why I know this off the top of my head. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I swear to God, it's off the top of my head. I'm not looking at anything. She was supposed to get in the car that morning. They called her because she was the early newscaster. She overslept. Her fellow newscaster called her and said, Jody, you have to get in the car. You're late. So she jumps in the car. She brings her hairdryer, but her car was found unattended with the hairdryer lying next to it, and no trace of her was ever found.
I'm not sure if I can dispute that, some of the facts, Clarissa. I'm not that intimately familiar with it. I have read some about it, and in fact, I was contacted and asked to be part of the, task force. It was after I had retired. So, task force, fine, but I don't have any law enforcement authority, so I would love to have done it, but at the time I was asked, I was working a case here in Colorado, which is still the second coming of John Benet Ramsey. We just, not a lot of people know about this case, but I would love to sink my teeth into that case. That's not a good way to put that, really. But I mean, I would love to take a look at that case involving Jody. It's a hard name to pronounce, but I think it's Huisentruit.
Yep.
And just do what I have done on a number of other cases and have a new, fresh set of eyes looking at things, but looking at it in a different way. And now let me hearken back to what I said earlier, who, what, where, when, why. Well, why is at the bottom of the list. Then I would look at the things from the perspective of, okay, so why did this happen? But even more important, or as important sometimes, is why did this not happen? Okay, so the case I'm talking about here in Colorado that I was working on when they called me and wanted me to, work on that one, Jody's case, involved a young man by the name of Redwine. And he was 13, went down to Durango from up here. I live in Fort Collins, but I was in Colorado Springs at the time, for a custodial visit with his dad. And lo and behold, turned up missing parts of his body were later found up on the side of a mountain, which was directly above his dad's place, the road leading right up there. And so when I went down there, they called me and they hired me, and they wanted me to give them my insights on the investigation. So one of the first things I told the captain that was in charge, I said, here's what I'd like you to do, if you would. Would you take me up to where the body parts were found? He said, sure. So up this road we went, and this dirt road on the side of a Colorado mountain was 8.2 miles to where ultimately the body was found. Interestingly enough, the body was placed up there. I won't say ceremoniously, but the thing I noticed as I was going up the mountain with the captain was I would look over to the side, and it was about a 65-degree angle going down. Now, at any point during that 8.2-mile drive, if this thing was committed by somebody that didn't know him, if I'm the killer, I pull the truck to the side of the road, I get the body out, I roll it down the hill, and that body's never going to be found. But why then, and here we go, started out that sentence with why.
Yeah.
Why would somebody skip that option and go all the way up to the top of the hill to where there was a parking area for snowmobiles and different, ATV things.
Sure.
And take the body and carry it down about 100 yards and leave it behind a fallen tree, a log.
Personal.
Why would somebody do?
Well, my knee-jerk reaction be it was definitely personal. You would not go through all that work for something you didn't know. If it was just a killing that wasn't supposed to happen, and you're panicked, you're scared, exactly like you said, you'd pull over the side of the road, get rid of the body. This has a ceremonial aspect to it almost. Went through all that work. I would say it's someone close to him.
Yeah, and that's what I told them. I said that was the first thing that struck me when I was down there. Literally, they had sent me all the reports of the case and pictures and just everything, and so I'd gone through that for, 3 or 4 months at home. Put in a couple hours a day looking at it, and then just, take my brain out and dry clean it for a while because it gets a little intense. And so I'd read all the reports. I'd submitted a report to them, my analysis, and they liked what the analysis said. And then that gave me an opportunity to go, look around. And that, for me, was just the epiphany. I knew then who did it. There was no question in my mind.
Who did you think?
The finger of guilt.
Who did it?
Toward the dad.
Okay.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt in my mind that's who did it. But unfortunately, nobody has been charged for this yet. And you can ask me why, and there's that word again, why. But The why lies down in a relatively small county with a smaller sheriff's department and a smaller DA's office, and probably a lack of experience and expertise in trying to get that case to the point where they could prosecute it. And I told him, I will come back, I'll stay down here, I'll help you as much as you need. I've worked a number of these, bigger cases like this. I am occupying the microphone here, aren't I? But anyhow.
That's okay. We got to go to break, though, Pete. I hate to cut you off. We got a hard break here. When we come back, we'll finish up that thought, and we'll kind of move into the realm of profiling serial killers and a few other realms of your expertise. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. Hey, you're listening to After Hours AM, and if you're listening to us via podcast, make sure you like us, follow us, review us, tell your friends about us, tell grandma about us, and keep listening.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Anavar Media LCC is a dedicated team of professionals committed to helping business development scale and protect their websites, mobile applications, enterprise software solutions in the Northeast Ohio area. Locally owned since 2012, our client-centered values truly sets Anavar apart. Contact us today to learn how you can get 25% off your first project. Call them at 234-380-4852. Again, that's 234-380-4852, or visit them at www.anavar.com. Again, that's www.anavar.com.
It's your ideas, work, and creativity that make it your yard. At ACE, we're here to help with hoses and sprinklers to nurture growth, gardening tools for the shape of good things to come, even the right fertilizer and bug killers to make the grass a little greener. You'll find it all now at ACE, your place, with everything you need for your yard, plus helpful advice, almost like we're right there. ACE, the helpful place.
You're listening to After Hours AM. Do you have a question for the guests or even the host? That's really easy. Go ahead and email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Are you feeling like picking up the phone and being part of the show? Call us at 612-326-6874, 612-326-6874. Come be part of the madness.
What's happening, hot stuff?
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. Whether you listen to iHeartRadio, Dark Matter Radio, whether you listen to UPRN 107, they changed the call letter, so I'm going to have to do this again. 107.7 New Orleans, or whether you are listening to one of the various AM, FM radio stations we're on, we all love you and keep on listening. And we are having a wonderful discussion tonight about all things true crime, of course, but not just true crime. We got one of the Grand Masters of, well, Pete, I will do this for you. Grandmaster of True Crime. He is one of the very first FBI profilers ever to grace us, or use his intuition to solve these very, very hard crimes. And that, of course, is Pete Klismet, and he is talking tonight. And again, he is a veteran. I want to thank him again for his service. And I want to get into, when we were leaving, we were talking about the horrible case about the young man that they had found dead, 13-year-old child. And one thing that we had brought up was, of course, the parents in these cases, or family members, or whoever's close to them family-wise, are always the ones to be put on the microscope first. I'm sure there's a good reason for that, but what is the average times that it indeed is a parent or someone close to the person? Is it more often not that than a stranger or a casual acquaintance?
Well, it depends, Joel, but, it really largely depends on the type of case it is. But let's do this. Let's digress back to what we talked about at the very outset of the conversation when I was talking about the percentages of solution in this country for homicides and why it went down so dramatically. Now, I think a lot of people are still tied in to the old system where the very first thing you do is look at the family.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a bad idea. I mean, quite often that's a good place to look. But years ago, 90% of these things did involve family, friends, acquaintances, or something of that nature. Now, it's much more likely to involve a stranger or maybe a drive-by shooting, maybe something drug-related, and on and on and on you go. So it's kind of inculcated, I guess, into the culture that we still do that type of thing. And quite often it's right. I mean, if you figure the odds, 6 out of 10 times, you're right. On the red wine case, we're right. So,
yeah.
It does work, but it doesn't work all the time.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you got to start somewhere. And I suppose it's like anything else. You start who's close, you work your way back to the victim. You start who has the most access.
True.
And
that is true. But now let me give you some other statistics, I guess. And, let me just give you some other information. In the United States, right now, we have about 15,000 murders a year, about 15,000.
Mm-hmm.
Of those 15,000, let's do the math here. I should throw this to Clarissa because we're both math majors, of course.
Okay.
But of that 15,000, we are not solving 1/3. So that means we're not solving how many every year?
We're not solving 5,000 of them.
We're not solving 5,000 murders every year. Now, let's take that back a little bit farther and go back. This is 17. Okay, so let's go back from 92 to 2012 when there was a study done on this by the Department of Justice on the number of unsolved homicide cases, and that's, up to 5 years ago in the United States. And there were about 210,000 murder cases in that 20-year period that weren't solved.
Wow.
Okay, so, that's real scary, isn't it?
That is real scary.
Yeah. I mean, I've given a lot of talks to a lot of groups, and that's one of the things I would throw out as a question is to say, does anybody have any idea about how many murders that we have in this country every year? And I'd get answers like 500.
Too many.
2,000. Got 1 million here a couple of months ago.
That's a ridiculous number. That is just a ridiculous number of murders. It really is.
It is. But, 15,000 is bad enough. Now, let me take you back to, I believe it was 84, maybe 85. And I'm guessing Clarissa knows this number or year. There were 24,000 murders in the United States that year. And leading up to it and going down from it, the numbers were very similar for the, let's say, 3 years before, 4 years before, and 3 or 4 years after that. So, reason, at that point it was, by and large, drugs, crack cocaine.
Mm-hmm. So I think it really did spike with the cocaine epidemic for sure. It seems like right around the 80s, like you were saying, Pete, is when they really spiked.
Yeah, you're right, Clarissa. And I really cite three things as causing those numbers to skyrocket, and that would be drugs, and that would be gangs, and the last thing would be guns, the proliferation of guns. We've got 320, let's say, million people in the United States. We got one gun for every person in the United States. Now, I'm hoping the NRA doesn't start doing drive-bys on my house by saying that, but those are the numbers, and I can't help it.
Well, you'd think that armed populace would be a polite populace. You know what I mean?
It would be what kind of a populace?
A polite populace. You'd think an armed populace would be a polite populace because you don't know who's packing.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of arguments to that. I know I could argue either side of it.
So
I'm not
Pete,
going to get into it here because, I've done that before and that's been a mistake. So, again, it's easy enough to make people.
So I have a question that might sound very, it might be churlish and kind of stupid, but you say that there's 5,000 murders that are not solved every year. What, in your opinion, what would be needed to get that number down further? That whether it be resources or whatever, is it just simply a matter of more people working to try to work on these cases, or is there something else that you think that's fundamentally missing from maybe getting those numbers down a little bit more?
Really a good question, and part of the answer to that is the reason there was such a dramatic change in the solution rate, and that occurred over a period of time, but the reason there was such a dramatic change is, and we've already talked about this a little bit, excuse me, we had a change in the type of homicides that were occurring. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of that involved the gangs and drugs and obviously guns. But also, there was a new phenomenon that cropped up in the 60s on into the 70s when there was more prevalence, and that was called serial killers.
I was going to ask you, is the golden age? We were informed.
It was the golden age. I have called it that. You must have read a book of mine.
Well, we were talking, Clarissa. Remember, we had a guest that said that the golden age is past, that serial killers are non-existent. Do you remember that when he was on the show just last week?
I don't think they're non-existent, but I do agree with that. That idea that peak maybe has kind of passed.
That because of technology and the way that we do things now, that a serial killer could not go like a Bundy, could not go undetected. Do you agree with that, or do you think there's still serial killers lurking?
Unequivocally don't agree with it.
I'm right there. I'm in your camp because we just did another show recently about serial killers that happen to be truck drivers. And truckers were dumping bodies, all littering the landscape, literally, with these bodies, knowing that law enforcement does not communicate very well with each other. So they killed someone in Texas. They drive them all the way up to Nebraska and dump the body. And they would have
exactly. There's 17,000 law enforcement agencies in the country. There's about 850,000 law enforcement officers. There are systems in place, but they're not used enough, such as the VICAP system, which the FBI maintains. But that's kind of a info in, info out, so to speak. And they're not getting enough input into that. So the systems are in place, and they do help at times. They do solve some cases, but there are a lot of them that are still going unsolved. There's no doubt about that. Now, how do I know that? Well, the reason I know that is because if you pay attention, and a lot of people don't because it doesn't affect them, but if you pay attention about, let's say 2, 3, maybe 4 times a year, one of these will crop up, and we'll find somebody that has killed X number of people. A Jeff Dahmer. I mean, these people hide in plain sight.
Yeah.
They're not your next door neighbor. Well, no, I mean they are your next door neighbor when you're expecting it to be a guy roaming around the neighborhood with fangs sticking out and blood dripping out of the side of his mouth. It's the antithesis.
Pete, I had a brush with a real serial killer. I tell this story about 1 million times on the show, but I won't tell the whole story. As I sat and I drank for about 3 hours with the BTK killer, David Know It. at a local bar.
Wow.
I used to live in Kansas, and
oh my God,
I lived in Winfield. He lived in Wichita area, and there was a little watering hole everyone would go to. And Winfield and Wichita kind of meet in the southern point. And he frequented this establishment. Although he drank soda, he didn't drink alcohol. I think he was fishing for victims. Because I don't think he was active at that point. He claims he wasn't, but how do we all know? You know what I'm saying? But he was not friendly. He was a dog catcher, and and he kind of had a really bad at his job, too forceful, things like that. So everyone kind of steered clear of the guy. But I had the brush with him, and he looks at me in all seriousness, Pete. You know, you ever look at a shark on National Geographic television, and they got the eyes of dead eyes? He looked at me, and he's like, "You want to come over for a couple beers?" Oh, hell no. No, I'm good. I am so good that, hey, that's awesome. Hey, no, man. Hey, rock on. I'm leaving. But that was my only claim to fame.
And the other thing about that, too, Joel, that's interesting is those guys, I mean, obviously, Rader was not a friendly guy, but that's unusual because most of the time they're very conversant with people.
Yeah.
They're able to hide. They are not, and Clarissa, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. They are psychopaths, they are sociopaths, but they are not psychotic. Now, there's a huge difference there. And Clarissa, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're absolutely correct. The vast majority just have psychopathy, but not something that would be a mental illness like schizophrenia. A vast majority are just psychopathic, no other mental illness.
Well, you know, Greg and I are lucky because we live in Minnesota nice, and I'm not aware of any serial killers that are from the great state of Minnesota. So we're pretty safe.
You know, it's interesting. Well, what's interesting about all that, and yeah, we do live in Minnesota nice, but I was just talking with somebody at work just the other day, and this is kind of the dark fare that we talk about working in advertising, is the art of not necessarily the serial killer per se, but someone like the Unabomber. It's like we don't get anything like a manifesto in a newspaper anymore. Now with technology being so readily available, and people kind of go out, are we kind of desensitized anyway to what used to be the art of a serial killer? I mean, it's just there's so many other things going on, even one-offs or school shootings or whatever. It's not the same anymore.
Well, you're right, Greg. I mean, the thing is, here in Colorado, you talk about being desensitized. I mean, we're kind of the capital of the United States in mass murder. You know, we've had the Aurora shooting, we had the Columbine shooting, we had them on Arapahoe High School. I could go on, in Colorado. And I don't know why. But, you do get to the point where you get somewhat desensitized, I think, to these things when they happen. It's the most horrifying thing in the world. Mm-hmm. And it is. It always is. It always will be. I mean, I've been on the scene of one of those types of crimes out of all places, the University of Iowa, mm-hmm. where my daughter was going to college at the time, where 3 professors, a secretary, another student, and or a student and another student were killed. And the doer committed suicide, is what I'm trying to say here. Mm-hmm. But this is in Iowa City, Iowa. I mean, everybody says, well, you don't expect this kind of thing to happen here. No, you don't. But they do.
And that's sad. They do. It does seem.
I want to throw a statistic out there that is absolutely terrifying. Radford University did this huge study on serial killers. It's the most extensive study ever done, just based on statistics, not on the type of stuff that Pete does. But the United States, the number of serial killers was 3,204 from the United States. And do you know what percentage of overall serial killers? We're talking England, South Africa, Canada, Italy, Japan. We're talking all the countries in the world. Do you know the percentage of serial killers that the United States was responsible for?
It's got to be high. It's got to be the 70s.
The world has created 3,200 serial killers.
No, that's just the United States.
That's just Wisconsin
portion. Hey now. It's just the United States. For instance, I'll give you a different statistic. England is responsible for 166. So
Wow.
Let's see. What's the best and proper term for that? I would say would be Bolshevik. I don't buy that.
You don't think that 67% of all serial killers are from the United States?
We may be singing out of a different songbook now, because I thought what you were saying, 3,200 serial killers have been identified in the United States, and that's what I would say Bolshevik to.
Oh, that's from all given history of United States killers. That's not like now. That's all the time period. That they
going
study.
from H.H. Holmes forward.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Radford University, I don't know much about them. They're in Florida, and that's about all I know, right? But
Yes.
I'm going to have to say we have a problem with statistics. We have a problem with definitions, because people will run serial killers, mass killers, spree killers, and heaven knows what else together. And there's got to be some fault with that, with the numbers, Clarissa. I can't buy that. You and I will talk about that off the air.
Okay, yeah, we can talk about it. It's based on a database of 4,743 serial killers total, and the statistics are based on the serial killer definition derived by the FBI.
Well, if that was the case, I've got a fairly good-sized basement in my house. I'd be digging another hole to hide in it, because to the best of my knowledge, the United States has been around for about 300 years, thereabouts, give or take, right?
Yeah.
350?
Yeah, right around there. Yeah.
Yeah, good enough for the girls we go out with, right?
That's right. Close enough. That's all That's all I care about, anyways. Close enough. It's hand grenade
In any
close.
event, in that period of time, there have been about 400 to 500 serial killers identified in the United States. Now, where somebody came up with 3,200, I don't know. I don't believe that.
That is a big number. And how many serial killers, though, Pete, in your estimation, are the ones that we want to be like Hannibal Lecter? You know, where we envision them being so smart and cunning that they are, you know, above reproach, and they are the Hannibal Lecter type? Or is that just another TV fallacy?
Well, they are smart, and they are cunning, and they hide in plain sight, and they learn from what they're doing. They practice their craft, and they get very good at it. I mean, Gary Ridgway up in Seattle, Washington, for example, killed 48 women that we know of back in the 82 to 85 period. And there's probably a lot more, and he somewhat acknowledges that there was more, or there were more. There were others that, Dennis Rader down in Wichita, 14, I believe. Yeah. But, I mean, if we had that many serial killers running around in the United States in a period of, let's say, 350 years, we do the math on that, that would be about 10 that would crop up every year in the ballpark of that number. It wouldn't be safe to live anywhere in the States. So I don't know, Clarissa, at some point you and I will talk about that, because I think Radford's, I'm afraid they're way off from anything I know. And I've studied this stuff for half of my life. Well, I've got Clarissa mad at me.
Well,
oh no. Go ahead, Joel.
Any serial killers are too many. If you ask this guy, I don't want to become someone's. Right. I don't want to become someone's dinner.
Well, and my question is, for where these numbers come from, what criteria constitutes a serial killer? And that might be a stupid question. Is it how many bodies is that? You know, is it 2? Is it 3? Is it how many?
That's a brilliant question, because the answer to that is it depends on where you are. In the United States, the definition of a serial killer is a person that kills 3 or more people over a period of time with a cooling off period between the killings. Okay, so cooling off doesn't mean a half hour. Cooling off usually means weeks, maybe months. In Canada and in other places, it's different. In Canada, they call A serial killer is someone that has killed 2 or more people, period.
Well, I want to run into the serial killer that's on the cooling off period. Thank you. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm on a cooling off period. Work. You're safe. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But really, we got about 5 minutes left of the show, Pete, and I know you got a lot of books out there.
Pete's got books, yeah.
He's got books, and we haven't even touched on those yet. We've been just so fascinated talking about your experiences and your work and stuff like that. Why don't you tell the audience about your books and where they can get them and all that kind of stuff?
Okay, well, we can do this again sometime.
I'd love to. Definitely, Pete. You're on. You're definitely on.
We've only scratched the surface, but you asked the question earlier on about the type of training or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. The first that I did is called FBI Diary, Profiles of Evil. In fact, both of the books I've got published right now are FBI Diary books. It's kind of going to be a series eventually when I get to doing a third one. But FBI Diary, my first book, Profiles of Evil, is the first and only book that has ever taken the readers inside the training that the profilers received, us, the first group of us. In other words, we went back to Quantico, and we spent, I'm going to say it may have been 3 weeks, because it was like boot camp. That's what I still call it, is profiling boot camp, and it was horrible. I'm looking at Hannibal Lecter types of stuff, and Buffalo Bill, and you name it.
Yeah. Wow.
From that, we learned a lot, and then went back for training twice a year, at which point they would show us new cases that had evolved over that period of time. Then the third part of the book is that taking that training, what do you do with it now, and some of the different cases that I worked on with some of the guys that were in the unit back there. I was not stationed in Quantico. I was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, so I'd be running all over the place. So that's FBI Diary, Profiles of Evil. The second one is a totally different book. It's an assassination of a police officer down in Cortez, Colorado, which is down in the Four Corners, the most desolate part of the country. Mm-hmm. And that's FBI Diary, Homegrown Terror. And there were 3 guys who were paramilitary survivalist types, and they essentially assassinated a police officer down there. And then the chase that ensued, and an investigation that lasted about 9 years to try to find all 3 of these guys. So it's a fascinating story, and I've been told a number of times, Pete, do you know anybody that makes movies? Because that's a movie. And I've said, no, I just write books. But in any event, first book is FBI. They're both FBI Diary. They're easy to find. Punch them in on the internet. You can find them. Punch in my name, Pete Klismet. I've got a website if you want to look at the books there, if you want to look at my ugly mug, whatever you want to do. Plus all the information about me is pretty much on the website. And I get a lot of referrals through it, too. So, well, not a lot, but I do, consulting business like I did for Durango. So that's in essence where to look. They're both, completely unique books and separate and different from one another.
Very, very cool.
Anybody that does my job now or in the future needs to be thankful to this man and what he did. Seriously, because without Pete, without that first group, without the influx of profiling, my job would not exist. So thank you, Pete, for everything you have done.
Yeah.
You're welcome, and I wish I could say it was a lot of fun. But,
well, it's a killer time.
It was real, and it was fun, but it wasn't real fun.
It's like I always tell Clarissa, it's a killer time.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a killer time in my life.
Yeah.
I always have to do that. But, we're at the end of another show, and boy, did that go by fast. I'd like to thank our guest co-host, Greg Buchan, for coming in. And
thank you, Joel.
Really, really gallantly filling the chair, man. You did really, really great. And don't miss us tomorrow night, of course, and we kind of take the left turn into paranormal world. And, of course, we're talking Dinner with a Ghost. And that, of course, will be an interesting show. You're not going to want to miss that. And on behalf of myself, Joel Sturgis, and Miss Clarissa Cole, Dr. Clarissa Cole, we'd like to thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM. Take care of each other, love each other, and read Pete's books and get scared and all that kind of good stuff. You might learn something along the way. Thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM. And please remember to like us on Facebook and also follow us over on Twitter.